Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. And today, guys, I am going to talk about and review Babylon on 4K. I just got this steelbook in, this beautiful steelbook in from Paramount to review and talk about. I watched the movie. It took me 2 days to watch it. This movie is 3 hours and 9 minutes long. It's a very long film, directed by Damien Chazelle. Look, before we get into it, guys, again, I'm just going to give you my thoughts on the movie and the transfer and all that stuff in this steelbook. It's a really gorgeous steelbook. Like, Paramount did a great job on this steelbook. Before we get into it, like, comment, subscribe. We cover physical media on this channel, 4Ks, Blu-rays. If you like that kind of stuff, you will enjoy this channel. Hit the subscribe button and then leave me a comment down below. Did you see this movie in the theaters? Judging by the box office, not a lot of people saw this movie in the theaters, but let me know your thoughts on the movie in that comment section below. Again, it is coming out on 4K. It's not out yet as I put up this review. It'll be out on March the 21st, so I will leave all the links for purchase down below in the description. It's going to have a Blu-ray release. It's going to have a standard 4K, and it's also going to have, again, this gorgeous steelbook. And it's available everywhere, guys, on Amazon. It's not just a Best Buy exclusive steelbook. So, getting into this movie a little bit, this is a film directed by Damien Chazelle. If you guys do not know who Damien Chazelle is, he directed a film called Whiplash, starring J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller from 2014. It is one of my personal favorite movies of all time. I would honestly put that movie in my top 10 films ever made. I love it. It's my favorite modern movie for sure. La La Land, I love as well. That's such a great movie to me. I know a lot of people kind of hated on that movie, like when it first came out. I feel like everybody loved it, and then everybody hated it. I hope that everybody's back to loving it again. I mean, it just got a gorgeous steelbook release last year as well. And so did Whiplash. Like, I've got great steelbooks for a lot of Damien Chazelle films, but I love Damien Chazelle and his movies. They're all he definitely has a style to him as a director. Like Babylon, like when I watch Babylon, like I can see shades of Whiplash and La La Land in here. First Man was like a very different thing for Damien Chazelle. I don't feel like the tone and the style of that movie is very similar at all. I feel like a lot of people could have made First Man. I don't see Damien Chazelle when I watch a movie. It's more of a biographical piece, whereas Whiplash and La La Land and Babylon are all, like, you know, written by him. They're like original stories. And that's another thing. Don't go into this movie thinking that it's some kind of like biography or if it's some kind of like accurate historical piece on Hollywood in the 1920s. It is not. This is not based on actual people at all. This was completely from the ground up, written by Damien Chazelle. And that's why, again, this movie swings big. Like, it's a movie that has big ideas and it swings for the fences. They don't all land for me, especially by the time we get to the end of it. But I will always respect originality over just somebody that's just churning out the same old recycled garbage that we see in all these movies now a day. So I respect the hell out of this film, and I like this film a lot, actually. Like, I've been thinking about it. Again, it took me 2 days to watch this movie. Me and my wife watched it. I've been thinking about it ever since I watched it, and I really did enjoy the hell out of this movie, but I have a lot of problems with it. But I'm rambling, guys. This movie, though, I will say it's a big, big movie, and the budget on this movie was $80 million, and they needed to rein that back a little bit. I don't know what they were thinking. Again, Margot Robbie has proven to not be a box office draw with movies like Birds of Prey. I mean, Suicide Squad did good, the first one, mostly because they put Joker all over the poster. So I think that's why that movie did good. And then Birds of Prey came out, and that movie just completely bombed at the box office. I don't even know if it made its return back. I mean, that was like right before the pandemic, but the box office was extremely weak for Birds of Prey. Margot Robbie, like, she's a great actress, don't get me wrong. Like, she's great in, like, everything. I think she was robbed of an Academy Award the year she was nominated for I, Tonya. I thought she was so good in that movie. Great actress. She's not a box office draw. Brad Pitt was once a box office draw. Again, he's a great actor. I love Brad Pitt. I don't think he's the draw that he used to be. So yeah, you put those as the stars of the movie, and it's a movie about the 1920s and filmmaking. It's really a love letter. Or I would say it's an anti-love letter to Hollywood in the 1920s as they're transitioning from the silent film era to the talkies in the 1930s. So it's a topic that I don't feel like it gets the juices flowing, so to speak, for like the younger generation today. So I don't know what they were thinking budgeting this movie at 80 million. Like that was not going to make its money back, and it made 63.4 million to what should be nobody's surprise at the box office, to be honest. But I love that they budgeted that high, and you can see that budget in this film. It's not like you watch it and you're like, where did the budget go? This is a big, grand, almost, I would say, epic look at Hollywood in the 1920s. Like, you have not seen Hollywood look like this in the 1920s, and just the way that they portray it. You thought we had degenerates now living in society today. And then the 70s, obviously, with the drugs and stuff like that, and people doing weed and LSD, the hippie era. There's a lot of different eras of like degenerates, and everybody seems to think that the good old days in the 50s and the 40s, you know, where everybody was nice and good and wholesome. You go back to the 20s, that is the rip-roaring 20s, what they call the roaring 20s, where alcohol was illegal and people were running wild, snorting coke. Like this movie portrays all of that. And the opening scene with the party is so well shot and so well done. And then you got that score by Justin Hurwitz. I love his, again, the Whiplash score, the La La Land score. I think he's won 2 Oscars at this point. The score in this movie is great, even though parts of it are a little kind of ripped off from La La Land. Like, there's a lot of beats in here that were kind of ripped from La La Land. My wife and I noticed when we were watching it. But that whole opening sequence, everything, like, I'll say this, I don't want to spoil too much about this movie. Somebody gets shit on and somebody gets pissed on in the first 5 minutes of this movie. It's crazy. It's crazy. There's people projectile vomiting in this movie, which gets a little Again, I'm not going to spoil the scene, but that sequence, if you've watched it, reminded me of Drag Me to Hell for some reason. So it was kind of goofy. It has this like goofy, almost comedic tone to it, but also it takes itself very seriously in other parts. So I don't think they quite got the tone right in this movie. This is a wild, crazy, coke and alcohol-fueled epic in the 1920s. And if the 1920s in Hollywood was really like this, it's no wonder that Hollywood got to the place that it was, and why they're trying to like rein everything back nowadays. Like, it is crazy how they portray like Hollywood in this silent film era. And everybody is good in this movie. Brad Pitt is excellent in this film. Margot Robbie, I will say, she's got this Jersey accent, and so when you're watching Margot Robbie perform, she's great, but it kind of reminds you of Harley Quinn a little bit, just the way she performs this character. So you're watching Margot Robbie and you're kind of think in the back of your mind, is this Harley Quinn's like origin story or something? You also got Samara Weaving in this movie. She's not in a lot of it, but the parts that she's in is pretty funny. So yeah, just some stunning, that whole opening like party sequence is just so stunning. The stunning sequences of cinematography, you can totally see where the budget went to make this movie for sure. The negatives for me, it indulges maybe a little bit too much. Especially when you get to the last hour of this movie. I don't think, if you want to talk about maybe trimming the budget, I don't think this movie needed to be 3 hours and 9 minutes long. Again, I will appreciate this movie. I feel like this is a movie that I'm going to watch in like, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and it's going to grow on me, and I'm going to appreciate it a lot more as time goes on. I still don't think it needed to be 3 hours and 9 minutes. It kind of, narratively, for me, in the last hour, it kind of loses a little bit of that. You kind of lose a little bit of that endearing quality of the characters in the last hour. And then it kind of, to the point where you don't really care about anybody when you're supposed to care about people. Like, by the time you get to the end of it, you're supposed to care about these characters. And I don't, because I think it just goes a little bit too far with them and their story. So I think it indulges a little bit too much. And they could have trimmed some of that off and just made a little bit tighter story. And I would have cared about the characters a little bit more. But there's also an amazing sequence like towards the end with Tobey Maguire. And I'm not going to spoil it, but it's wild. It's like ripped straight out of like horror movie. Like, there's some horrific imagery in this sequence. I think it's like 45 minutes from the end, but Tobey Maguire is like wild and out there in this sequence as well. There's a lot of great things about this movie. There really is a lot of great pieces and parts to it. I just don't think it all comes together quite like I wanted it to. Look, this movie is, I would say, this is definitely worth watching. Is it worth picking up on 4K? We'll get into that here in a second, but this is definitely worth watching, especially if you're a fan of Damien Chazelle and you're a fan of original storytelling, because this is an original story. This is not based on anything, and it has a really cool look at filmmaking back then. And it kind of teaches you a little bit about the stuff that went on back in the old school Hollywood era. Not enough films are really covering that era, so I think that's pretty cool what Damien Chazelle did there. So as a movie, again, I have my problems with it. I'll give it a 4 out of 5 for the actual movie. Now, getting into the transfer, the 4K restoration on here, this is a movie that was shot on 35mm. I mean, Damien Chazelle is a student of old school filmmaking. Like, he loves this kind of stuff. He would not settle for shooting this movie digitally. Like, this is a movie that he stood up for and said, this has got to be shot on 35mm. If I'm going to really, it's kind of like if I'm going to walk the walk and talk about the old school Hollywood era, like, this has got to be shot in the old school Hollywood way. So he made sure that this movie was shot in 35mm. So this is a native 4K restoration, Dolby Vision, HDR10, everything, all the bells and whistles. And my God, did this look excellent on 4K. Like, again, I didn't watch the Blu-ray, which it does have the Blu-ray copy in this steelbook, but it looked fantastic. My God, sharp picture quality. Like, you could just see every detail in everybody's face. And this is kind of like a almost like sun-drenched aesthetic, like some browns and oranges. And it kind of just feels, everything has this like hue over it, kind of this like a sunset type hue over it. Again, it's set in California, but all the outdoor sequences and the landscape, it just has these like really awesome like wide shots of the landscape in LA, and everything looks excellent. Like, the picture quality here is just pristine, fantastic. And I mean, I think this movie is definitely better for being shot in 35mm. Now, there are a couple of sequences where I was like, did they put a little bit of CGI in here? Because it kind of looks a little fake, some of the stuff that they do. But overall, looked great. No issues with the picture quality here. Looked pristine. Paramount did a good job with this restoration. Getting into the sound, this has Dolby Atmos. It has 7.1 True HD. It's got French Dolby Digital 5.1, Spanish Dolby Digital 5.1, English Dolby Digital 5.1. I listened to it in Atmos. Again, I have a soundbar that simulates the Atmos. I've got the subwoofer in the soundbar. It sounded fantastic. All the sounds, everything sounded great. The score, the way that it blares in, and I just love the score in this movie. I've been listening to it on repeat. When I really love a film score, I'll listen to it like over and over again for like a good week, and this is definitely one of those. Again, it has a lot of the La La Land cues in it, which is maybe why I like it so much, but also it's just a really like loud and bombastic, and you got the jazz and the trumpets, and I love it. It's a great score. But the sounded fantastic. Again, they had that Dolby Atmos in there and everything. This movie is definitely one. Again, so big and so grand, such a large scope with this film. And the sound definitely, you know, added to that. The Dolby Atmos definitely added to that. But getting into the packaging real quick, again, this is a beautiful, gorgeous steelbook, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of an unboxing here. I love that champagne glass with the bullet going through it on the back. So freaking awesome. You open it up, and this is a 3-disc set, and you do get a digital code in here, but you get a Blu-ray. Again, this is a 3-hour and 9-minute movie. They could not fit the special features and the Blu-ray on the same disc, but you have the 4K, you have the Blu-ray of the movie, and then you have an additional Blu-ray, which has all those special features, which there's a good amount of special features, but again, it's only maybe, I would say, 50 to 55 minutes worth of special features. So I would think that they would be able to fit that on the same disc with the Blu-ray. But again, this is a big movie and it looks great. So maybe they didn't have the room to put all those special features together. And then you get this little sticker, which was on the plastic, and I usually take those off because I like to keep them. I put it on the inside of the steelbook. But good artwork on the interior artwork of the steelbook as well. That I always appreciate. Getting into the special features, there's a whole documentary on the making of this movie. It's about 30 minutes long, so that's a really good documentary. You get a little featurette on scoring Babylon. You get a featurette on the costumes. You get some deleted and extended scenes. Like, this movie's not long enough. It's 3 hours and 9 minutes, but you get 10 minutes of extra extended scenes, which again, I always appreciate that. And I'll show you all this J card right here because I don't think I did it in the initial unboxing. But yeah, just a great release, and again, I'm not gonna say it's a great movie. I don't think it quite gets there, but it's a really good movie. And it's an interesting movie. And it's an original movie, and I think we should support stuff like that. It's a movie that I could see holding up over time and becoming a classic for sure. And another good movie from Damien Chazelle. And he's a great director, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. But this Steelbook right now is $34.99. Again, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it. I don't know if you'll be able to get it in Best Buy when it comes out, but you can definitely get it on Amazon right now. I'll have that link down below in the description. Yeah, just a gorgeous, gorgeous Steelbook. But you can also get the 4K for $27.99, and I believe the Blu-ray is $22.99 as well. And I will also have those links down below in the description. So thank you all so much for watching this review of Babylon. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Comment down below if you're going to pick this up. If you've seen the movie, what are your thoughts? Also, be sure to turn on those bell notifications for all future videos. And follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.